Most of you know them, and maybe even know them well. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background, just as a refresher. Sally was born in Winchester, Ontario. She's a multi-talented lady and generous to a fault. She's a very skilled sailor, a lieutenant of the Sea Cadets, and indeed is heading out to the West Coast shortly to work with some Sea Cadets on the water. She volunteers with disabled children, teaching them to ski, and she has a grand sense of humor. She never stops smiling. Noel is also multi-talented. He was a carpenter when the TD Tower was built. He was a copper for many years. That career led to his becoming a paralegal. He is a skilled sailor with all things boating. And he joined Sally in teaching disabled children to ski. Both Sally and Noel work hard in the winter so they can sail somewhere in the summer. Sally, as I said, is taking off her parts west in the near future to spend time with Sea Cadets on the Pacific Ocean. This summer, they no specific plans yet, although the Baltic may feature. And so please give Sally and Noel your warm Shellback welcome.
Okay, I know that was for Sally.
Here. Sally, did you look at me? What is that? Huh? Did you look at me yet?
Magnificent cross for the audience. Where did he come from?
Me? I snuck in. Here, you can have that.
No way, you did this. So, to answer Jeff, no, I haven't. No. I haven't.
I'm just going to push the button.
Push the buttons. Here's your
For the change. Anyway, I think you all know, or maybe you didn't, but last winter we spent it in Ireland. I'd say it works. Last winter we spent in Ireland because Sally had a job working at the boatyard, running the place. And then this past spring we left Ireland and sailed across the Scilly Islands, and then from there across I guess the English Channel along the south coast of England, and eventually wound up in Chatham, where we've left the boat. And then when we were in Chatham, we another couple that we'd met in Scotland when we literally ran into the back of them in a lock. We chartered a bareboat in Turkey, and that is the second half of
We want to see Noel's phone when he was 19.
Noel's phone when he was 19.
Well, that's one of the headings there. That's one of the files.
Noel's phone, wow. Okay, he's a bit lost. So last winter we had a ball, and we were tied up in Waterford City. And part of the deal, so where we kept the boat for the past 5 winters, all the girls that worked there got pregnant. And so, and they all had babies within 3 months of each other. So I was asked, well, Noel got there a week before I did. They didn't, they said, hi Noel, listen, would Sally work for us starting, go sailing in September-ish? And he said, yeah, call her. So they did, and they said, now we'll call you tomorrow so you have time to think about this. And I said, yeah, I'm coming. We had a laugh. They lent us a little red diesel car, and we had great fun. We joined the motorboat and yacht club in Waterford. We showed them slides of Labrador. They didn't want to see anything else. They just wanted to see Labrador. And they came away thinking, Labrador might be a bit bleak.
So we left Waterford, I guess in May, and sailed across to Scilly Islands, and this is Hewtown, and I can't remember the name of the island it's on, but that's the harbor, and we were anchored out in the middle of that someplace. I think that might be us over there.
What's the name of the pub?
What was the name of the pub?
Which one?
They had enormous chains that were about the size of my leg that ran from the pier wall to the other pier wall. It's the tides, it's beautiful sand, and it'll roll your anchor in springs. And they said, no, just pick a mooring, and all the moorings were sized. And because our boat's relatively small, we were able to always get a mooring. But he said, in spring tides, you'll roll your anchor. It was an interesting place.
And it's not windy there at all, as you can tell. And this is on the island of St. Mary's, and these are Royal Marines, and they had 3 landing craft, and apparently they come over here every year to play in the sand. But what they're doing there was a diver or swimmer in the water, and they're surveying the beach. So I guess one morning the people who live on the island are going to be invaded by the Marines. But we went into Falmouth, and these are the footprints of Robert Knox Johnson that he put into the bronze when he left on that around the world race in the 60s. And then he wore the same shoes and put them into the bronze when he came back. And we didn't run into him, fortunately, but when we were pulling up into Gosport, he was coming out of the harbor on his boat, Suhili. And Sally looked at him and said, geez, I know you. And he just, with a big smile on his face, looked at Sally and said, I don't know you, as he's going by. Anyway, this is just a building in Penzance that's built like an Egyptian monument. And we went up to Penzance to see the pirates, but there wasn't any. They were all away on holiday. This is the harbor in Falmouth, where we spent 4 or 5 days, and the big gray boat was, they still do some naval repairs and stuff there. And there's Sally doing like a linker repair. We came along the south coast and went into most of the big harbors. This is in Plymouth, and it's the memorial to the English sailors. And that's the second Eddystone Light, because the first one got knocked over, and then they replaced this one, put it on shore, and then built the one that's out there now. And that's a cannon barrel, and where they used them as moorings into the concrete in the ground, and that groove is cut by the mooring lines tying up ships to them.
Cable or line?
That's cables. And then that's the chart picture of the Hoaz in Plymouth, Naval Yard, and the anchorage. This is the inner harbor at Dartmouth, and I hadn't noticed the sign when I took the picture, but it says Dartmouth and Bloom, and there's some dead old grass there.
That was why we took the picture.
But when we were in Dartmouth for a while, and we managed to take a steamboat trip up the river, and then got off and got a bus from there across to the other side, and then got on a steam train to bring us back down to the Dartmouth.
And when we went right up the Dart River on this boat, they explained to us that when we got near the top of it, they had to dredge it out, and the walls of the river were slabs of stone that were placed by American Civil War prisoners of war.
Oh, God.
That was the 1812 war. From there we went up to Portland, and this is inside the harbor of Portland. We got there when they were doing the regatta, and it's where they had the Olympics, I think, in when they were at London, they had the sailing here in Portland. And they used our boat for a turning mark when they were all coming into the show. And that's in Portland, and those are two of the Mulberry docks that had been towed over to France, weren't used, so they brought them back, and now they're sitting in the harbor in Portland as a memorial, I guess. And what they've done, you see the two figures on the top, they're sculptures of some of the people, townspeople from Portland who took part in the war and didn't survive, and then so their statues are up on these floats. And Sally carrying on a conversation. She'll talk to anybody or anything, really.
Trying to talk him out of a rescue.
Yeah. Weymouth Harbor. And the needles, as we're going into.
This was the day. So we're having a glorious sail, and we're sailing past, and we're trying to get to Plymouth. No, we ended up going into Cowes because we got tossed around like a cork, and the tides are just very strange. And it was a perfect day, but it wasn't.
We were on our way up into Portsmouth at that point, and then got knocked back and had to go up into Cowes. This was in June 4th or 5th, I guess, just before they were doing the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landing. So there were a lot of these ships anchored out in the Solent, and the Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard ship, and one of the forts out there in the background.
In one of those newspapers, those forts are listed for sale.
And one of them's been turned into a luxury hotel. But this is the aircraft carrier Queen Elizabeth, the new one that was in Portsmouth when we went by. Top secret stuff, but nobody cared that we took pictures. So. And that's the ship that all the vets went over to France on for the June 6th, as it's leaving.
And they had completely closed the harbor for pleasure craft. So you couldn't move. Once you got in and tied up, that was it.
I think this is the Warrior, which is the first iron steam ship. And then this is the sculpture of the picture that was in Life magazine at the end of the war. And there's always somebody who wants to look up the skirt. And the Victory, getting another refit. And this is the, I don't know if you can see it really well, but it's the Mary Rose. They built the museum around the ship now, and it's quite big. And then this past summer, they're excavating the bow section of the ship, and they'll be getting that lifted up, out, and put into the museum too when they get it covered in the glycol. That's the Naval Museum in Southampton or Portsmouth or Binding. This is up in the Hamble River, and then that river, there's 5,000 boats up in there, and I think it's not much further than going from, say, up the Humber River from the bridge to the Humber River Yacht Club. And I was there, Sally had come home at that point. I was there for the start of the Around the Isle of Wight race, and the boats were leaving here all day long. Just it was like a traffic jam, and the start line had 1,300 boats. the next day. We went up into Southampton, Queen Mary, Town Gates. There's a height, and there's the locomotive that takes you in and out on the long pier. They wouldn't let me drive it. That's the White Cliff. This is a marina in the harbor in Dover, and this will soon be moved because they're rebuilding the whole harbor outside, landfill, and it's going to be a huge place when it's done. You can see there where they're doing some of the work on it, up in Dover Castle. And this building was a Roman lighthouse. And what I hadn't realized that Dover was where the Romans actually landed when they invaded England. And it was Dover was at that time was a big naval port for the Romans. And these are Thames River forts. One set of them that are right out in the mouth of the Thames. You could probably buy those too, or they'd give them to you. And then we got up into Chatham, and this is Upnor Castle. And the boat now is on the Hard, just up in behind those buildings for the winter. And that's the entrance to the marina at Chatham. And this is a Russian submarine that's sitting on the bottom up in Rochester. And somebody had the idea of turning it into a restaurant. Rochester Castle and Cathedral. And that's the end of that slideshow.
So, while you find out. So, part of the thing with Rochester is that's where my sister lives, and her son was getting married in the cathedral. So that was why we spent time there. And what he didn't show you was we got up to London, so it's a full day from Chatham up to London with the tide. And we got in to stay at the St. Catherine's Docks, right next to the Tower of London, just before the Clipper Series race departed. So there was like 25 Clipper boats. Are you ready?
I will. So that's pretty much what we did around England for the summer. And then we, at the end of the summer, the friends that we ran into in the locks in Scotland, we could become good friends with them, and we chartered their boat to sail around for a week in Turkey. So I made this short video of all the time we were sailing on it. And there's no sound. But we chartered the boat in Gosha, and then went out for a week. And we only spent, I don't think we went any further than about 25 miles in the whole week we were there. It was, the country was totally different than what I expected.
We've lost some.
So anyway, this is one of the boats, and we had a race. There was a boat we were on, and then there was friends that had the other boat. And the rules from the charter company was there had to be 3 on each boat. So either I or Sally would jump off this boat and sail on the other one.
I'm in the boat in front.
But you do notice the boat that I'm on, we're overtaking.
Yeah, right.
And then we did pass them, and then we slowed down because the guys on the other boat knew where they were going, so we followed them in. But it was an interesting country. The water was warm for swimming. And every kind of bay we went into, there'd be a restaurant or a bar there someplace. And if, when you dropped your anchor, a bumboat would come out and take the lines ashore. And then if you're going to eat in a restaurant, you didn't pay for the mooring.
Well, you didn't have to, they picked up your mooring for you.
Yeah.
Why are the stays so rich?
Pardon?
Why are the stays so rich?
Charter boat.
Yeah.
So you had to pick up a mooring, and what they then did was take account as to how many people were gonna be going for dinner. And then they would come by and pick you up, and you went for dinner, and it was, I don't know, 300 lira or something for dinner in the night, mooring, for two of you. It was very good value and beautiful. They have very strict rules about discharge, and you had to be 3 miles off when you discharge your holding tank, and everybody respects it. And the charter guy, when he turned the boat over to us, made sure we knew exactly the rules. We all had to go for one pump out on the last day of the trip, and our friends who'd done this before knew to go the night before, get the pump out, head back out, and then we didn't show up until we tied up for the rest of the day. Like we were turning the boat in, but we didn't spend the day queuing for diesel and pump out.
But we sailed around there. I don't know if it's in here, it might be, but I was swimming around and saw an anchor on the bottom, and the anchor looked to be about this big, and I thought it was a dinghy anchor, and I couldn't, well, I don't sink much anymore. I think I have to lose some weight, but I couldn't get down to get it, so I got them from the boat to bring over a boat hook and a bunch of other things, and still couldn't reach the anchor. And then I think what Sally realized that was an anchor from a boat that had dropped the anchor and gone right across the bay, and all the chain was going across, and the water depth was about 75 feet down. So, why is this?
So unfortunately, at the beginning of the summer, we drowned our little point and shoot camera, and the only things we had were these GoPros. And it took forever to edit all this video stuff. But Turkey was amazing. We didn't see a whole lot of it, we just saw one small corner. But the food, it was just great, and I really liked how they were proactive about preserving their bottom. And they wanted you to use the moorings. And then they tied our lines astern to what was agreed socially acceptable to tie the lines to. There was often big rings that they would scamper up the rocks and tie them to. I think we can go faster.
Yeah, I go down to speed it up, maybe.
Anyway, enjoy your lunch. This is kind of.
Sally, who did you charter with?
There's the anchor. Whoops. I had it there.
This sounds bad. There was a question of who did we charter with? We haven't a clue, because our girlfriend Dawn did everything. And she literally did everything. I did a bank transfer. We were good to go.
Now, does that look like a dinghy anchor?
He didn't think to follow the bit of chain across the bay. And one of the things that they didn't want us to do was exactly what this, tow the dinghy. People don't know how to drive and tow the dinghy. I don't know. We had an awful lot of fun. We ended up, we broke the outboard, and it was no big stressor because we had the other boat, so they came and towed us back. That was that shed in the side. That was one of the dearest places we ate, and it was a beautiful restaurant. The boats were crazy big. Enormous swim platforms, and we were so happy to get back to our little tiny strong boat. It was a Jeanneau 45. 2015, and the other boat was a 48, 2017.
Did you see a walrus down
Wait a
there?
minute. This anchorage was at an island that had a Byzantine village on it. The whole island had been settled. There was five churches on the island. It's all now in ruins. But it's, you just go up and wander through the place and,
Different centuries.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll see, I think he's got pictures of the island coming up. It was 5 different churches, and the first 3 were before Christ.
Oh, wow.
And then there's just mosaics in the ground just there. Just, you know.
And the
none of
water
this-
level the water level, sea level has risen because in around some of the ruins that were under the water, there were pipes, like ceramic pipes for water and stuff.
This is the day we screwed up the outboard.
I didn't.
So our friends Dave and Dawn, they knew enough that if we were gonna go hiking, get up and go and do your walk from 7 till 9 in the morning. Because the heat was just too intense later on. And then you had to wait till the wind came up at 2, and you had a most glorious sail till about 6. But if you tried to move before that, there just wasn't any wind. You needed the thermals to set up. This is the island with the different churches.
And the only thing living on the island were what do you call it? Small
Gecko.
geckos and marmalade cat.
A very well fed marmalade cat. Yeah.
Did your friends know where to go and have charts and so on? Or how easy is it if you go down there, would it be to find your way around?
It was easy. We were pretty keen, so we brought our tablets with all the electronic charts, and they just headed off and went because it was all line of sight. And it was beautiful. We ended up coming back here with the big boat and tying up, but the reason we rubber dinghied over was so we could walk around and see it. But and it was very different from Hadrian's Wall or anything because it was all mortar. None of it was dry stone. And this went all the way down to the shore.
You know what? And they're all olive trees.
Is there any habitation on these islands anymore?
No, it's a national, yes, there is, but it's a national park. It used to be all mined and got destroyed, and it's now all preserved. So the only people that can have a restaurant there have been grandfathered. So there's only one restaurant in each bay. And then another place we were at, there was 2 families that lived there. But they all have places in the winter to be, so their kids can go to school and that. But they had goats and cows and grazing around. So you could get yogurt, they all baked bread, it was great. And we were able to buy very local honey, all from the boats. There's the mosaics just in the ground. And this steel gate you could just lift out and remove. We didn't. We put it back in place, in fact. But this is about 9-ish in the morning. There's no wind. Those are all fish. It's beautiful.
And you could buy those in the restaurant.
We're gonna do this.
And then these are guys that are paragliding, I guess, and they jump off the mountain on the top, and you can do it because it's a tourist attraction. So you can go up and get on one of these things with the guys and jump off a mountain and land down here on the beach. But while we were there, one of them came down, landed on the beach, and both the instructor and the passenger went off to the hospital unconscious because they hit too hard.
But it was wild. Joan from the other boat, she had to go ashore because she screwed up her vape e-cigarette thing. She went ashore, came back, she bought one, no bother. It doesn't look like you could buy one there, but there was no issue.
I think that's Sally singing in there.
No, I won't do that.
There's one of the ceramic pipes that's now under the water. I don't know where it went or, and didn't see any octopus in it, so.
They needed a good plumber.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody?
So which islands are these?
If you see the
they're
postcard,
Turkish.
Yes?
that's everywhere we sail.
Okay,
All on the one postcard.
okay.
It's a very small area. And it's great, in Turkey.
Now, this was on the south coast, you said?
Near Greece.
The southwest corner.
Okay.
I didn't get a postcard.
It's working around.
Check your
We
mail.
sent one to you, Alan.
Snail mail.
Now that,
Oh, this is the place with the goats and the cows and the,
yeah.
and we went, Dawn and I walked over the hill. Can I have that? We walked over the hill and there was a huge sea turtle. I thought it was a really fat man swimming. There were no boats here. And I said, Dawn, is that a turtle or a fat man? And she said, that was a sea turtle. And this enormous sea turtle was swimming around and then it dove and went so deep you couldn't find it.
How big was it when you say big, like 2 feet or?
We were 300 feet up and it was bigger than a rubber dinghy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know they got that big.
And this was Fetier. We're at the market and it was very strange. We had to buy the fish and then
That's our buddy
they cooked
Dave.
it for us.
That's our friend Dave getting a Turkish shave.
He looks a little apprehensive.
Well, wait till you see the
Well,
flakes.
yeah. That's how you get rid of your ear hair if you're so inclined, but
Here's the lawnmower.
I'd be afraid of him setting my hair on fire, and that wouldn't have worked, right? And then,
There's a, Fetier is a base for all these gullets, which are horribly unseaworthy boats, but they're an awful lot of fun. And you go and you hang out, you have a week's holiday with a manned crew, and they even bring your mattresses up onto the cabin top each night so you sleep under the stars.
so that's that. But this year, I don't know. This year, I don't know where we're going. The boat's up for sale, and if it sells, then we'll come back here and buy another boat. But if it doesn't, we'll either go up to the Baltic or maybe bring the boat back to Canada. So that's, or go do something else. I don't know yet.
Decision.
Thank you, Sally and Noel. If you make us want to get on a charter boat and head to those islands, they look absolutely fantastic. You didn't do
I didn't do what?
Istanbul.
Istanbul. Do we have Istanbul?
Can I tell you a funny story about Istanbul? So we went 4 days from here to Istanbul. So this was grand. When we went to leave Istanbul, because we came from Dalaman Airport in the south to the little airport in Istanbul for regular in internal flights, we didn't know where the Atakirk Airport was. Well, on the subway map, there was Atakirk Airport subway stop, and you know, it had a little airplane and everything. And with 4 of us, we're all pretty good travelers. So we get up and we go to Atakirk subway stop the day we're supposed to fly back to London. They moved the airport, and it kept the same name. So it went from the Aegean to the Bosphorus. It was so weird coming out of the, there was no activity, there was no hustle and bustle, there was tumbleweed through empty parking lots. And very little English is spoken around, so Don managed to find somebody, and he said, oh, airport's gone. Where? Bus. No airport, no bus, he kept saying, go to bus. An hour and a half later, we completely missed our flights.
We pulled into the airport as our plane was
The gate closed.
the gates were closed, the plane was in the air.
And they're so used to this in the new Atakirk Airport that we still got back to Heathrow on the same day when we really wanted to get back to Stansted. But you know, it's nothing money can't cure. It was wild. The travel agent was right there. Oh, she could set it up. We through Athens, back to London. We got back the same day, just a full lot for her. It was crazy.
Okay, thank you both so much, and I shall give you our little token of appreciation yet again. And are there any questions or comments before I tell you what's coming up? Yes, Paul.
The only correction I have is the Olympics in 2012 in London were in Weymouth.
This is Portsmouth. Portland is right next door to
It
Weymouth.
was in Weymouth though.
It's the harbor that's right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the sailing was.
And Turkey's a terrific place. I had a wonderful trip.
It certainly looks to be. Okay, so next week we have Angus Armstrong, and he's the Harbour Master Emeritus, and he'll be giving us an update on the status of the plans for the waterfront Toronto, including plans for the mouth of the Don River. And then following that, we have Rob Mazza returning again this year, and he's documented his tour of the Canadian War Memorials at Vimy, Beaumont, Hamel, Dieppe, and Juno Beach, the 5 Canadian pilgrims in northern France. And with that, pipes up.